Good morning students, welcome you all for class 10 chapter 15 science our environment. In this chapter we'll be learning about environment, ecosystem, its components, what is waste and what is food chain. All this will be learning children. So let us start with this chapter with the introduction. We have heard the word environment often being used on the television, in newspaper and by the people around us. Our elders tell us that the environment is not what it used to be earlier. Others say that we should be in a healthy environment, and global summits involving the developed and developing countries and regularly held to discuss environmental issues. In this chapter, we shall be studying how various components in the environment interact with each other and how we impact the environment. As we know that this environment is related to the human beings and well-being of the human. So when we generally speak, the people say that you should be in a healthy environment. What does it mean? Might be it is the good environment, is it? The surrounding? Yes, definitely. So not only that, what the elders will be talking about this is environment is not what it was to be earlier. Now it is changed a lot in the sense they are pointing out how the human are exploiting our environment. Then we often see in the television and the newspaper and the people around us debate about this environment, and it is the concern of everybody that we have to safeguard our environment so that in near future it will be helpful for us, is it? And also for our further generations. And we'll see that how this interaction takes place between biotic and abiotic. I'll be telling you what is biotic and what is abiotic. Before going to that, you just look into this. This is our planet, right? And here you can see this. This is the picture which depicts that what is environment. Here you can see that volcano eruption, some smokes are coming outside. This is soil, green plants, buildings, towers, and you can see that aeroplane and all this, which says that there is a relation, is it? The relation in the sense there is an interaction between the people who are residing in these places on the earth along with other organisms. Might be it as microorganisms or any other organisms. From there you could see that there is an interaction in the sense they need air, and this air is required for their survival. Apart from that, the temperature, the moderate temperature which is required for life to exist, that is present, and the plants also need air, that is carbon dioxide during photosynthesis and oxygen during respiration, and there is an interaction, isn't it? That is what we were discussing here, how this components in the environment interact with each other. These are all the components. I hope you're following, children. Let us move further to know more about our environment. Together we'll sum up and we'll put in a sentence. What is environment? Environment is sum total, the sum total of everything around an organism, including both the living and non-living components. The living and non-living factors influence the environment. So together, the living and non-living together, which will influence the any organism, that is called as environment. The living and non-living factors influence the environment. Next, we'll get to know what are the components of environment. What are the components of environment? There are two components of environment. One is abiotic and the other one is biotic. Abiotic is nothing but non-living components and biotic is living components. So these are the two components of the environment, and how those two will interact. Without two of them interaction, there is no there is no essence of environment, right? Next, first we'll see that what are abiotic factors. They are non-living components or non-living factors that affect the environment. Abiotic means non-living factors that will affect the environment. It includes, what does it include? It includes climatic factors like wind, water, light and temperature. It is nothing but the climatic factors like wind, water, light and temperature. Next is physiographic factors. Physiographic factors are nothing but the height and at to which height we are in the slopes. Those things will be described in physiography. And edaphic factors, just now we looked into the picture, we saw that soil, texture, soil organism, pH of a soil, like that. Those are all together called as edaphic factors, minerals, and all this, how rich it is, those things will affect the environment. Next we go for biotic factors. What are biotic factors? These are the living factors that affect the environment. It includes, what does it include? It includes grazing animals, insects, lichens, humans, parasites, plants. So those are all the living factors that will affect the environment, right? So here you can see the difference between biotic and abiotic. All the living organisms, here you can see that this is all, this is microorganisms, and this is fungus, protista, plants, animals, all the kingdom you can see here. This is living and these are all non-living. Water, soil, air, minerals, light, as such temperature, all this will be in abiotic. So this picture you have to remember, children, so that it will be easy for you to write the comparison of living and non-living things, or biotic and abiotic factors. Right here, grazing animals, in the sense which will be dependent on the plants, that is animals which eat plants. Grazing animals, they go eat the grass or any other plants where to survive they need. And insects, you know that those grazing animals, how much it will affect, in the sense when they go graze, and when the plants are removed from the soil, then the soil becomes the soil will be taken off, that is soil erosion takes place, that will affect the environment. Similarly, insects again, it can be the insects are harming the plants, and the crops, again it will affect the environment. Similarly, lichens, it is a combination of algae and fungi. Thus lichens are also called as natural indicators. Where the pollution is more, the lichens cannot grow. Okay, that is why we call it as a natural indicator. Humans, you know that I need not to tell, humans, due to their selfishness, greedy nature, they are exploiting the environment so much that what all the ill effects we are facing today, that is because of only humans. Parasites, again that will affect the environment, and plants that affects the environment. Next, we are going to learn what is waste. What is waste? Wastes are the useless or discarded material which we don't use. The material which are not used for us, or which is not useful for us, are called as useless material or discarded material. They may be gaseous in the sense the outlet from the factory, industry, automobile, those gaseous will be considered as waste. Along with that, again, the outlet of the water from the factories, industries, textiles, all this dye making, there the liquid which is coming are called as waste. Again, solids in nature all called as waste, children. I hope you're following. Next we go for types of waste. What are the types of waste which we are which we are expelling to the environment, and how does this affect? Let us see. Types of waste. What are the types of waste? There are two types of waste, that is biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Let us look into the difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste, children. So what is biodegradable waste? It is a waste that is broken down by biological processes. That is, The things which get decomposed by the microorganism activity or microbial activity, those are called as biodegradable waste. Example, saprophytes. That is, saprophytes will be living on dead and decaying organic matter. So this will help in decomposing this waste. Hence we call it as biodegradable waste. Example, kitchen waste. What are the kitchen waste? The vegetable peel, which you are removing while cooking, and it can be the onion peel, vegetable peel, fruits, then the peel of other fruits. That is, it can be all which is thrown from the kitchen, that are called as biodegradable waste. Along with that, the sewage, cotton, cloths, all this come under biodegradable waste. Here you can see that these are all the vegetables, fruits peel, and you can see that coriander, all that it's a waste. Okay, the banana peel, potato peel, tomatoes, all this comes under biodegradable waste. Next we go for non-biodegradable waste. These are those which cannot be broken down by biological processes. By biological processes which cannot be broken down or decomposed are called as non-biodegradable waste. Example, plastics and polythene bags. These two are causing great harm to the environment. Hence, the government has banned the usage of plastics and polythene bags. And you know that people are nowadays becoming alert about this, and they are avoiding the usage of plastic and polythene bags. This non-biodegradable waste creates environmental pollution. It is an undesirable change in physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of air, wind, and soil. So if you could see that non-biodegradable waste which causes the environmental pollution, see there, these are all the plastic bottles which you can see here, which is accumulated. As such, you can see if you go to some of the places, like if you go to park, beach, and the public places where the people drink, and they throw it on the streets, throw it in the park, or throw it in the beach, and this gets accumulated, and it's a great threat for the environment. These are all the plastic, that is non-biodegradable waste. Even after so many years, this thousands of years also, this will not get decomposed, or this cannot be destroyed by the microbial activity. Then these are called as non-biodegradable waste. Clear? It affects the environment to a greater extent. Next is we will just learn what are ecosystem, what is ecosystem, what are its components in ecosystem. Right? What is an ecosystem? An ecosystem will be learning about the relation between the plants and animals, organisms together put. We call it as ecosystem. See, this is the picture which has been enlarged here. What is ecosystem? You can see this is the pond. The frogs are there, greeneries are there, that is plants are there, tadpoles are there, flies, sun, waterweed, that is water plant, a fish, a snail. All together is called as ecosystem. Now let us define what is ecosystem, children. It is a structural and functional unit of biosphere. Biosphere in the sense, bio means life, and the place where the living organisms live are called as biosphere, comprising, what are they comprising? Comprising living organisms and their interaction with food chain and biodegradable cycles. So here you can see the interaction between living and non-living. Sun, the temperature is very much required, that is non-living. Water, wind, all this are non-living, whereas the living or both are interacting, and they are in one place, which are greater helpful. So those are called as ecosystem. All organisms as plants, animals, microorganisms, and human beings as well as all the physical surroundings interact with each other and maintain a balance in the nature. See, when their interaction is it is very much required for balancing the nature. All the interacting organisms in an environment or in an area together with the non-living constituents of the environment form an ecosystem. All the living and non-living components which interact and that helps to maintain the balance in the nature are called as ecosystem. Okay, thus an ecosystem consists of biotic component comprising living organisms and abiotic components comprising physical factors like temperature, rainfall, wind, soil, and minerals. So, in the earlier case, we learned about biological factors. That is, when we look into it, we have biotic factors and abiotic factors, which will be the major part to play in the environment. For example, we look into the example for ecosystem. For example, if you visit a garden, you will find different plants, right? If you could go visit the garden, see here, you can see the garden is well maintained and you have different types of trees or plants. Here you can see flowering plants. So if you visit a garden, you will find different plants such as grasses, trees. You can see trees, flowering plants, that is flower bearing plants like rose, jasmine, sunflower, and animals like frog. Here you can't see, but if the pond is there, the frogs will be there, insects will be there, flowers are there, insects will be there, birds will be there. All those living organisms interact with each other. That is, this interaction is very much helpful for their the taking up of their further progeny, right, with each other, and their growth their growth, reproduction, and other activities are affected by the abiotic components of the ecosystem. So a garden is an ecosystem. This garden is an ecosystem now. And other types of ecosystems are, this is a garden. Garden is an ecosystem. Other types of ecosystem are forests. Forest is an ecosystem. Pond is an ecosystem, and lakes. And these are all natural ecosystem. Forest, pond, lake, or natural ecosystem, while garden and crop fields are made by human or artificial ecosystem. I know that what I'm explaining you're following, children. Clear? This garden is an artificial ecosystem, whereas forest, then ponds, lakes will be the natural ecosystem. Clear? Next, we'll go for activity 15.1. You might have seen an aquarium. Let us try to design one. That is, let us try to design one. What are the things that we need to keep in mind when we create an aquarium? If you are asked to create an aquarium or just do your own aquarium, what are the things you need that you have to recollect? First thing is, you need a aquarium. That is, you need the container, and fishes should be there, is it? The fish, the container should be free. That is, it should be having a spacious place for the fish to swim and move around, and or you can even make use of the large jars can be used to make an aquarium where the space should be free for the fish to move. Depending on the space availability in the jar, one should think of how many fishes can be added in that jar. Apart from the space, we need water, oxygen, and food to create an aquarium. Not only that, what all we require, you would have observed the aquarium, those things should be provided with. We can provide oxygen through an oxygen pump. Aerator will be there where the oxygen will be pumping here inside that, and fish foods are available in the market that can be purchased for those fishes. If we add a few aquatic plants, see there, aquatic plants, the plants which live in water, those plants can be added. It can, or animals, other animals can be also added. It can become a self-sustaining system. Can you think how this happens? An aquarium is an example for the human-made ecosystem or artificial ecosystem. Whereas like garden is an artificial ecosystem, this aquarium is also a human-made ecosystem. Can we leave the aquarium as such after we set it up? Why does it have to be cleaned once in a while? Do we have to clean ponds or lakes in the same manner? Why or why not? That is a question now. So after creating your own aquarium, is it necessary for you to clean it regularly? Is it necessary to change the water which is there? Yes. But why do we not change water, or why do we not clean the pond, lakes where the natural ecosystem is set up? Is it? Now in natural ecosystem, we are not cleaning, or we are not changing the water, or we are not providing food for it. But in artificial ecosystem, we need to give all that which is required, isn't it? We have seen in earlier classes that organisms can be grouped as producers, consumers, and decomposers. Is it? Now, you understand, if this aquarium is not cleaned, the color of the water changes. The color of the water changes. So, we have to give a new water by changing that water and cleaning the jar of this aquarium, where that will otherwise it starts stinking, is it? So thereby there will be some microbial diseases for the fishes which live in this water get, and chances are there to for the fishes to die. So we have to take care of all this, is it? So now we'll see what are we going to discuss. As I said, we have seen in earlier classes that organisms can be grouped as producers, consumers, and decomposers. What are producers? Producers are nothing but the green plants. The green plants which prepare their own food, and that will be eaten by all the organisms, then we call them as producers. What are consumers? Consumers are the one which eat the producers, which depend on the producers, which survive on the producers. And decomposers, again, they will by the microbial activity, thus organisms will be decomposed. Those are called as decomposers according to the manner in which they obtain their sustenance from the environment. Let us recall what we have learned through the self-sustaining ecosystem created by us above. That is, it may be garden or aquarium which is created by man. Which organism can make organic compounds like sugar and starch from inorganic substances using the radiant energy of the sun? Which one will make? Right, in the presence of chlorophyll, that is plants, right? All green plants and certain bacteria, they prepare their own food, which can produce food by photosynthesis. Photo in the sense light, synthesis, the preparation. So using the light, the organism prepare their own food. That process is called as photosynthesis. Here we are pointing out all green plants and certain bacteria, few bacteria will undergo this process, come under this category, and these are called as producers. These are called as producers, right? Next, organisms depend on producers. The organisms which do not prepare their own food are not capable of living on their own, hence they depend on others, that is, depend on the plants, and they to survive. Those plants are very much important, hence we call them as producer, as I said. And organisms depend on the producers either directly or indirectly for their sustenance. Directly they may depend, or indirectly they may depend for their survival. And these organisms which consume the food produced either directly from the producers or indirectly by feeding on other consumers are the consumers. So directly they'll be getting, say suppose if green plants are there, suppose the grasshopper eats the grass, then they are called as grasshopper are called as consumers. If this grasshopper is eaten by some other organism, they are also called as consumers. Now I repeat this, these organisms which consume the food produced either directly, that is from the producer if they eat, or indirectly by feeding on other consumers, like I gave the example of grasshopper, those two are called as, that is, consumers. Consumers can be classed variously as, those consumers can be classed variously as herbivores, carnivores, omnivores and parasites. What are herbivores? The organisms which eat only plants. Herbivores are the organisms which survive by eating the plants. Okay, they depend on the plants, right? Then what are carnivores? Carnivores are the organisms which eat the flesh of an animal, right? Next is omnivores. Omnivores are the organisms which will be dependent on both plants and the animals. Hence we call them as omnivores. And parasites. Parasites are the organisms which will be totally dependent. That is, here also you can, when you go to in depth, you can see that partial parasite and total parasites will be there. These organisms will be getting the entry into the host in the sense the one who provides space and to live and food are called host, and these organisms will enter their body and they complete their life cycle. Those are called as parasites, right? Parasites, lice can be an example for parasites. So this you should remember, children. Can you give examples for each of these categories of consumers? These are all called consumers, whereas plants are called as producers. Understood? Those herbivores, what are the animals or organisms which come under herbivores, carnivores, omnivores and parasites? You should give example for all this, right? So now we'll see. Imagine the situation where you do not clean the aquarium and some fish and plants have died. See, fish and some of the fish in the aquarium, if the aquarium is not cleaned, let us take up the previous example. If the aquarium is not cleaned periodically, the aquarium starts stinking, as I said, that the microorganism starts growing and it may infect the animals, and that is a fish and the fish present in the aquarium as well as the plants. Infection starts and they'll be killed. If suppose few are killed and it is still in the aquarium, have you ever thought what happens when an organism dies? Yes. Accordingly, decomposition takes place. The microorganism comprising bacteria and fungi are called as decomposers, children. This will break down the dead remains. When the organisms die, those microorganisms, which are mainly bacteria and fungi, will decompose, or they break down the dead remains and waste products of organisms. These microorganisms which help in breaking down of the dead remains are called as decomposers. The microorganisms comprising bacteria and fungi break down the dead remains and waste products of organisms, and these microorganisms are the decomposers. Decomposers, why do we call decomposers? As they break down the complex organic substances into the soil and are used up once more by the plants. You would have seen that when the leaf litters are fell down on the soil, then those will be used for the plants again. Similarly, the complex organic substances, when it enters after breakdown, when it enters the soil, and that will be utilized by the plants, and thereby that provides a good humus for the plant to grow. What will happen to the garbage and dead animals and plants in their absence? If suppose the decomposers are absent, then what will be the condition of garbage and dead animals and plants, dead animals and plants? See, just imagine if the dead bodies and if the garbages are not decomposed by the decomposers, and this will be uh, will be spoiling the environment, and also this causes infections. Microorganisms starts growing over those garbages and dead animals and plants, and it starts again the disease. It starts the disease with, and in the absence of decomposers, if this garbage and dead organisms will not be cleared, then you look into the condition of the environment. Will the natural replenishment of the soil take place even if decomposers are not there? That is a question. Even though if decomposers are not there, does this natural replenishment takes place? Let us think about it, and we'll find out the answer. Clear? If natural, that is, if the decomposers are not there, it is very difficult for us to say that the replenishment of the soil takes place, because as decomposers play a very important role in enhancing the environmental conditions, right? Here you can see in this picture, this is the structure of bacteria, and here you can see the fungi, right? These two are called as decomposers, which help in decomposition, children. Clear? This is about today's class. What all we discussed? We discussed about ecosystem. We discussed about environment. We discussed about ecosystem. We discussed about the factors affecting the ecosystem. That is biotic ecosystem. That is biotic factors, abiotic factors. From there, we discussed about waste, and under waste, we compared with or we found the difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. Then under ecosystem, we saw which are the natural ecosystem and artificial ecosystem, and how this ecosystem will form an interaction between living and non-living. From there, we went on to look into how this artificial ecosystem, by the activity we got to know that, and we found answer for it. If the aquarium is not cleaned regularly, and what will be the condition? Fishes and the aquatic plants die. And if it is let without cleaning, what happens again? Is it? So this is for today, children. We'll continue in the next class. Take down assignment for this session. First question, what is an ecosystem? Second question, compare biotic and abiotic factors. Third question, differentiate between biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste. That's all for today, children. We'll be meeting in the next class. Thank you all.